Hello and welcome to The Lucky Roll, an eclectic channel for eclectic games. And today we have to say a very big thank you to Gale Force 9, who have gifted us with an early copy of the Captain Kirk Federation expansion for their Star Trek Away Missions board game. So, today we're going to unbox this and stay tuned when we review this in the future. So with no further ado, and before the Office of Temporal Investigations find out, let's see what's inside. This is something very exciting for me because it allows you to play the original series crew in the modern context with the next generation. Now, I'm not talking about the Generations movie. I'm talking about the original crew being sent forward in time to the Battle of Wolf 359 so they can try and find their way back. What's really nice as well about this is even though they're a Federation faction, they're not completely separate to the rest of the Federation. I checked on the Gale Force 9 website, and apparently what you can do once you are very comfortable with the game is you can mix up classic crew members with next generation crew members and create the ultimate bridge crew, or indeed your dream bridge crew to take on the Klingons, the Romulans, and everyone else. So, with no further ado, let's unbox this and see what goodness we have inside. So unboxing this for the very first time, we are greeted with, of course, the minis and two sets of cards, one being, of course, the starter deck. So when you're playing this game for the first time, this is the deck you use, ready, fresh out of the box. And when you're more comfortable, these are the more advanced cards that you can use to customize and make your deck all that bit better. Underneath, of course, we have the mission cards, the new card templates, and some new little tokens. So we'll start, of course, with the minis, which are, of course, always some of the best things. And what we have here, I'm going to zoom in on this. So we have here Captain Kirk, and he's in perfect classic William Shatner Star Trek pose, where he is shouting into the communicator in one hand and the phaser at the ready in the other. Now, one of the new tricks that these two expansions bring in, I believe, are beaming out. So no doubt Captain Kirk here is screaming for someone to beam him out of trouble before either the Borg or the Romulans or the Klingon get him. We have here the other part of the classic trio, Bones, James McCoy, here with his medical tricorder, no doubt observing everything in his usual aloof style. These are lovely little minis, and as you can see, stand up very well. A very nice kind of resemblance as well to the classic characters. We have here the ever dependable First Officer and indeed Captain, and I think in some cases Admiral Spock, where he is, of course, ready for action. Given that this is a skirmish game, he has to have the phaser out, so it's not always logic and science that are going to save you. But Vulcans, being Vulcans, are always stronger than humans, so it's going to be very interesting to see what Spock's stats are coming to this. And of course, we finish it off with Chekhov, Ensign Chekhov, or Lieutenant Chekhov, who I loved him in the modern iterations of the movies, that he was kind of a boy genius. Not taking from Walter Koenig's kind of portrayal of him, but he was always a kind of a gifted young Captain Kirk, that he struck me as that. So it's nice to see that the kind of command crew has possibly one of the best young officers in it. So he is here in classic squad action, which is great because there is a take cover mechanic in this game. So it's nice that you can actually use Chekhov with that take cover. Now I'm going to bring in the stats. As you can see here, we have Spock. Now, Spock has command, computers, and science. So these would be the extra skill techs that he has. He has a 2 attack, 2 defense, and 3 skill, and of course 4 movement. Now, the other good thing is that, God forbid that they get assimilated, you can still use the Borg assimilation templates on these characters. We have here, of course, Bones McCoy, who is, again, not quite as skilled, but no doubt 10 times as cranky as poor old Spock. We have here Pavel Chekhov, and again, he's about as powerful as Bones. He doesn't have the extra skill level that Spock does. So Spock, from what I can see so far, tends to be the most skilled out of all three. And we have here Captain Kirk as well, who has command by 2. Of course, Kirk being Kirk, and the rogue cowboy commander we all know and love has no problem taking charge. He has diplomacy, which is an interesting one because that's a trait he shares with Captain Picard, and he has security, whereas Pavel Chekhov has computers, science, and security, and Bones, which I had forgotten to check, has medical by 3. Now that is a very interesting stat because I think that makes him the most powerful medical character in the game, more powerful even than Dr. Crusher. So this might be a very interesting character if you want to have a mixed Federation bag. Now let's have a look at the core missions. These are the core mission cards, so I'm just going to unbox these and have a look at what's inside. So there should be 2 missions in every single one of them. So we have here the shoot to kill. So this is an interesting one because for each critical mission score, you place it here and you place bonus points here. So if you want to be a very combative Star Trek original series game, this would be the card you want to go for. And here on the other side, we have the common piece where you score 30 points if you have 5 or more command mission cards in your scoring area at the end of the game. Now what's interesting here is you've got Spock in his dress uniform. So again, I love the imagery that they put here for these cards because you have Captain Kirk in full action mode and you have Spock in diplomacy in full dress uniform. You also have here a little breakdown of some of the new rules, which includes beaming away. So again, this is why Kirk is shouting into his tricorder. It's a new little mechanic for the game, and in some cases I think it's beneficial for your characters to get out of dodge, as it were. So let's have a quick look at the new tokens. We have here the new tokens. So what we have is 5 points and 10 points. We have also beaming away tokens, and something I've only just noticed here, which is the mind meld token. And of course, no one is more indicative of, or more reluctant for a mind meld, of course, than Bones and Captain Spock. Now, I think this is quite an interesting one because I think this is the image from Star Trek 2. Bit of a spoiler alert here, but in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, Spock dies heroically, but before he dies heroically, he mind melds with Bones, which will come into play in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. But I think this is the image that they took from it. So again, a nice little bit of fan service for the game here. And here on the other side, just in case you're not sure, it just tells you what the actual tokens are. So we're going to start with the Federation starter deck, which includes 2 sets of cards. We have the support deck and we have the mission deck. So let's have a look at the actual support deck first. And the first card that greets us is one of the classic aliens. So this is the Korobite maneuver. The next one, of course, is Spock doing his extremely logical. So this is an interrupt play where you play before rolling dice for a science skill test. You get to roll 1 additional dice. And if the skill test is part of the illusion mission, you roll 2 additional dice instead. So this is quite good in the sense that logic often sees through illusions. We have here the classic line, "He's dead, Jim." And how could any Star Trek fan not want to have this card in his deck? You have here more classic Bones. I'm a doctor, not a bricklayer. So already I want to replace Crusher with Bones. I want these cards in my deck. We have here Kirk's Dropkick, which is how do I put it? It's from a place of love, but Kirk's dropkick and stage fighting antics are so cheesy. It's kind of cheesy goodness, but his dropkicks can be kind of they can be impressive and kind of absurd. But the fact that they got his dropkick in here, again, you can tell that they were real fans of Gale Force 9. You have Kirk's Ear Clap, again, another one of Kirk's classic fighting stage combat maneuvers where he clapped the Gorn on the side of the ears and kind of disorientated its senses. Now, I'm not having a go at William Shatner. There was always pressure and time frames for these actors to do what they had to do, and the fact that he was able to do it with such gusto and still make it beloved is a credit to William Shatner. But I'm loving the fact that they're listing Kirk's actual combat, stage combat moves. The next one, of course, is Kirk's hammer blow. So again, this is him hitting Khan on the back with the double fist, which is very interesting because Khan was essentially a superhuman and possibly 10 times as strong as Kirk. But nevertheless, he was susceptible to Kirk's hammer blow. We have here, again, Kirk's judo throw. So, I mean, he's got the full range of classic 1960s stage combat film kind of knock you out type of things going. But this is him, of course, beating up an Andorian, which, of course, ended up being core members of the Federation. And we have here, I think, what Kirk is most famously known for, Kirk's seduction. So this, I think, is why Kirk always does very well at the diplomacy with maybe 50% of the alien population. You have here sedation. So again, this is a very interesting image because you can tell that this is from the pilot episode because Spock here looks slightly different. There was, I think, 3 pilots for Star Trek. There was one with Christopher Pike as the captain. They replaced him, and there was one where Majel Barrett was the first officer, and the idea that a woman could be first officer in a ship was abhorrent to TV executives. So they got rid of her, they put in Spock, and they got in William Shatner as Captain Kirk. They changed Spock because he was a bit too satanic looking, and they were worried that it would offend some of the southern parts of the States. So he had a slight makeover, a bit more friendly, but the other reason I know is, apart from the makeup, is that he's wearing the orange jumper. So he's got the kind of the orange command jumper here, whereas it was replaced with blue in subsequent seasons. So this is a very interesting kind of image that they've taken. So of course this is an event, so it's a sedation action. We have here Stella, and of course I think this character was one. His name escapes me at the moment. I think it's Mud or something like that. But he was a great kind of rogue trader kind of character, and I think that is his wife. So as you can see, he's a bit long suffering. You have here the Vulcan nerve pitch. So of course you couldn't have Kirk's combat moves without Spock's classic Vulcan nerve pinch, and I'd say this is going to be one of the reasons that Spock is a very important character, and it's an interrupt ability. You have Bones crying about saying that you've killed him. Now that's a very interesting one. Play when a friendly character is neutralized. Take a medical skill test with a character adjacent to the neutralized character or the space they beamed away from. If you score 3 or more successes, remove all tokens from it and recover all damage from the neutralized character and place them in any empty space. Now that's a very powerful thing, and of course this is probably why Bones has 3 medical. And you have here, of course, the mind meld. So again, this is on the tokens, and I think this is the image from the TV, or from the movie, as opposed to the TV series. You have set phasers to kill. Now, I actually love this, because one of the great appeals for Star Trek, the original series, to Star Trek fans is the special effects. Now, the special effects were amazing for 1960, and they've aged badly, but to me they've aged in a way that there's a charm to it. And I remember I picked up the Star Trek original series remastered a long time back, and they had a discussion as to whether to completely modernize the special effects or just tidy them up, and they chose to tidy them up because part of the charm of the 1960s Star Trek was the old kind of special effects, and this I think was a lovely choice for set phasers to kill, because again it's an iconic moment from the TV series, but it brings along a little bit of the charm for it. We have here, of course, Captain's Log, one of the most important things, because where would the narrator be without it? We have here the communicator, and I remember these things were so cool back in the day. They're not a touch on mobile phones now, but the whole flip open, flip shut communicator thing was really classic Kirk. And I remember I had a flip up, flip down phone that I shouldn't really tell you this, but I did kind of do the Star Trek open up and shut down noise when I was in college, just for a bit of fun. It wasn't cool at all, and I have no doubt I lost a lot of potential dates because of it, but I don't care. It was still fun. We have here disguises. So this is, I remember this was a classic episode. They had to put a beanie hat on Spock to hide his ears, but they were walking around, I believe, in modern times. You have here the lovely Nurse Chapel. with her med kit. Now, this is a very interesting character because Majel Barrett is the actor. She was not only the voice of the computer in Star Trek, but she was also Gene Roddenberry's wife, but also the first female officer in the pilot episode. She was supposed to be the number one for Captain Pike, but the 1960s was too far back to entertain the notions of women being in high positions of power, so they had to recast it with Spock. Now, I'm sure we all love Spock, but it was still good that Majel Barrett got a nice role in Star Trek, the original series, as Nurse Chapel. And what's also interesting is that her character had feelings for Spock, and there was a kind of a tragic thing that he would never be able to show the love and the emotions and the feelings back. And we have here, of course, the classic hypo spray. So a very interesting variant. You know, Dr. Crusher had the simple one where you would just kind of push, but this one obviously is a two-handed kind of syringe thing. So probably why Bones was cranky all the time and to do twice as much work. So that was the starter deck for the support cards. What we're going to look at here now is the mission deck cards. So we'll start off with the first one, which is the Empath. Now, these, I believe, are the aliens that were part of the pilot. They were the ones that kind of reconstructed Christopher Pike. So there was a very interesting kind of episode where they had no idea what humans looked like. So they kind of put them back together a little bit wrong. But, it was the female they put back together a little bit wrong. But nevertheless, they were really cool kind of aliens that communicated telepathically. So in this one, this character beams away, so it's an action, and if you can manage to do it, you score 20 victory points. You have the Savage Curtain, which again is another beam away action, which you can score 20 points. You have Quick Reflexes, which is actually really cool, because that's Kirk, I think, managing to escape a massive blast. We have here the Prime Directive, so we have, of course, Bones and Kirk in kind of jungly gear. I'm not quite sure what episode that is from. We have Pacify, so it's an interrupt action. Play before your opponent rolls dice for an attack action against a friendly character. The opponent may choose to cancel that attack action, forfeiting the action. If they do not cancel the attack action, you score this card. So the Pacify is a very interesting one that you can still get some action points out of a killer move from the opponent. And of course, here we are, Mud's Women. So I actually was right in his name. His name is Mud. But Mud, of course, was a classic rogue character, and here are some of the women. They're classic episodes because he was such an actual rogue. You have here the Mnemonic Memory Circuit, so a classic episode when they went back in time. And you have Mirror Mirror with evil Spock and good Kirk pretending to be bad Kirk. This character beams away. This character takes a command skill test, and this character succeeds and scores this card. They score 3 or 4. They'll score this card if they score 3 or more successes. So it's just nice that they have the mirror universe here. That it's an actual card. So who knows? We might even have some mirror universe characters in the future. You have here the Metrons, which is another interrupt card. You have the Menagerie. Now, I made a mistake. I had assumed that these were the aliens that had actually reconstructed Christopher Pike. It's not. It's actually this one. So a slap in the hand for my lack of Star Trek knowledge there. But they were part, I think, of the pilot episode as well. We have here Live Together in Peace with both Spock and Dr. Bones McCoy in their dress uniforms, and this is an interrupt action. So you score at the end of the round if friendly or hostile characters other than Borg drones were neutralized this round, and you get 10 victory points for that. You have Joining with a Horta, so you can see Spock is doing a kind of a mind meld here on a creature. You have Isolate Pathogen, of course, which is a Bones McCoy card. And you have Mud, which is, the action is choose a hostile character within the line of sight of this character. Take science skill tests with any or all friendly characters within line of sight of the hostile character. Score this card if at least one friendly character passes their skill test, and you score 0 points. So that's an interesting little one. So it's really more a kind of you get bonus points for doing so. You have the Guardian of Forever, which is a very classic episode where they went back in time. You have Devil in the Dark, of course, which is where they tried to destroy that creature and Spock had to mind meld with it. You have the Balance of Terror, which was an excellent episode. One of the first times we saw the Romulan Star Empire. We have Arena, of course, with the Gorn, and the Gorn and Captain Kirk's famous battle being one of the best, and no doubt one of the inspiration for all of Kirk's judo, dropkick, hammer punch scenarios and actions in this. So your command and a hostile commander beam away. So remove the tokens, and that's quite interesting actually, because you actually take the two characters away. Remove all tokens and restore all damage to both characters, starting with the hostile commander. Both characters alternate taking attack actions using their base attack rating. When one character is neutralized, they fail and the other succeeds. Now that is brilliant. I love that. They've actually encompassed the entire episode and brought it into this game with both the hostile commander and your own commander, mimicking the showdown between the Gorn and Captain Kirk in a side little game. That's really nice. You have here adjust phasers. So this is actually a very famous meme because they're all red shirts, and there's nothing more famous in Star Trek than red shirts dying horribly. So this is Captain Kirk. The meme normally says that, gentlemen, only one of us is coming back, and he's not wearing a red shirt. But you take a security skill test at the command terminal in the armory, and if you score 2 or more successes, you score the card, and it's a simple 10 victory points. And you have here a private little war. Now those were the starter decks, so you would have these on your first time unboxing and trying the Captain Kirk away missions for the first time. So what we're going to do now is we're going to open up the advanced cards and see what we have inside. So we have here the second support deck and mission deck. So obviously you don't have as many mission cards as you do support cards, because the support cards are where the game is at. So let's have a look at the actual support cards here. So we're going to check out the first one, and it's the Type 3 phaser rifle. Now, it's an iconic image, the Type 3 phaser rifle, and it's, how do I put it, it's the most bizarre conglomeration of 1950s, 1960s sci-fi tech weaponry that you could come up with. I mean, I have no idea why there's a little satellite dish on the end of it. Obviously it was to make it look futuristic, but I'd nearly be embarrassed carrying that rifle. But nevertheless, you have the Type 3 phaser rifle, and I'm sure that there are Star Trek fans out there that love it, that have replicas of it. For me, it stands out for all the wrong reasons, because it is the most ugliest, impractical looking weapon I've ever seen. But nevertheless, if I was caught for any type of weapon, I'm sure I'd be delighted to have it. We have here, of course, the tricorder, which is much more practical. So again, it's a kind of something that's slung over Bones McCoy, and I always liked it because it reminded me of the kind of the first aid bags that medics would have had. But nevertheless, this is the old-fashioned tricorder, and was a kind of a cool, black, sleek-looking thing, very well made, and of course it allowed Bones to make immediate medical diagnosis. You have here, of course, the Medikit, again with the lovely Nurse Chapel. So the support deck and the extra one, you can have up to 2 of them in your deck. We have here disguises. So again, you get to have 2 sets of disguises. You have here, again, a repeat of the You Killed Him card. So this is interesting in the sense that you can try and recover 2 characters twice in your deck. You have 2 Vulcan Nerve Pitches, so that's a repeat as well. And we have the Sedation. And we have a new card here now, which is a Risky Negotiation. And this is why Star Trek, the original series, is amazing. Because in what other TV show could you have Abraham Lincoln in the background in the middle of a risky negotiation in a futuristic 1960s TV series? So again, this is why Star Trek is just brilliant. You have here the Quick Retort. So I liked this. This was Captain Kirk's kind of cool command top. They did something very similar for Picard at one point, where he had a kind of a blue-grey uniform with a red suede kind of jacket. And one of our viewers actually told me, and I never knew this, but Picard apparently hated the jacket because it stank, so that's why we never saw many of it. But I'd say this was something different for Kirk, because it was just kind of a green command top. But I'd say William Shatner liked it because it wore it a lot and it looked quite comfortable. But nevertheless, it's an event card, which is a quick retort. So play when a hostile character ends a move action in the line of sight of a friendly Federation character. Take a diplomacy skill test with the hostile character as the challenger. If passed, the hostile character player must discard a support card. So that's very interesting because you can force less moves on your opponent if you get them to discard and get rid of support cards. Now we have the Organian Intervention. So not an episode I'm aware of, but nevertheless it's an interrupt. So you play before the opponent rolls dice when making an attack action. The attack action is cancelled and the opponent gains a bonus action token. So that's very interesting. The bonus action token only allows you to take one action, whereas the actual action is 2 actions. So we have here not a Moon Shuttle Conductor, another event with an interrupt card. You have the Neural Gas, so these are all new cards, and you have Medical Attention, and you have, again, Kirk's Seduction, because 1 Kirk Seduction is not enough for Kirk. You need at least 2 Kirk's Seduction. And you have here, again, another classic from the Gorn episode, the Improvise Weapon. So play when taking an attack action using a melee weapon or their basic rating. Take a security skill test. If passed, this character rolls an additional attack die for each success. So again, a very interesting card and imagery to put to it. So in the Gorn episode, of course, Kirk improvised an actual cannon to take down the Gorn because he just wasn't a physical match for it. He found things like sulfur and cordite and improvised a kind of a zip gun, as it were, to take him down. So again, it's nice that if you're doing a kind of a hand-to-hand melee thing that you can actually roll an additional attack die. This would be very useful against the Klingon factions. You have here, of course, the classic Bones, I'm a doctor, not an engineer, and this is from the Mirror Universe, I believe, because Captain Kirk is wearing the Mirror Universe counterpart's uniform. You have Bones, of course, has this sash, and Scotty, I believe, was scarred in this, but it's nice that they've taken imagery from the Mirror Universe. You have heated negotiations. Now, I remember these guys. They're constantly angry. They're kind of like short little dwarfs, but I think that was Spock's father that they were having nasty words with. You have, of course, the classic He's Dead Jim. You have an extremely logical card, and you have, of course, diffusing the situation. So, as you can see, it's from the same episode, but Kirk doing Kirk's thing where he diffuses a tense situation in the same thing. So in this one is you interrupt, and in this one it's an interrupt. So both are interrupt cards and possibly could be played one after the other. These are the extra mission deck cards. So we'll start with Treat Survivors. So this is Bones. This is Bones doing what Bones does best. So you take a medical skill test in the sickbay and you score 20 points. You have the Steel Cloaking Device. Now this is very interesting because this is Kirk in disguise in Romulan uniform, trying to steal, no doubt, the cloaking device from them. So you take a security skill test on an operations terminal in engineering and you score 30 victory points. You have the Spectre of the Gun, so we have a nice one here with Pavel Chekhov. We haven't actually seen many Pavel Chekhovs, but this it's an action, so this character beams away. And if the character takes a skill test, a security one, then immediately takes a science skill test. And if they succeed and scores this mission card, if they've scored more or 4 successes between both tests, and they get 20 victory points for that. You have, of course, a Quick Reflexes. You have a Position of Strength, which is an interesting episode. Of course, they're all in their dress uniforms. You have Mutual Interests. So we have here the classic Klingons, who, you never know, we might see a classic faction of Klingons, because if the original series crew can come back in time or go forward in time, there's no reason why other Klingons can't do the same thing and maybe mix in with the Klingon factions the same way that the original series mixed in with the Federation ones. You have Khan. Of course, how could you not have Khan? You just can't have Khan because he's a man with a can-do attitude. Sorry, I'm just going to can the can puns because I don't think you can take it anymore. Anyway, nevertheless, if you put Khan in a hostile character, remove all tokens and restore all damage to that character. That character rolls 2 additional die for attack and defense die, and you score the card if the character with this card becomes incapacitated or neutralized by one of your characters, and you score 40 victory points. So, given that he was a definite nemesis to Kirk, it's a great one to put in. You have the Arbitration again with the Klingons. You have Amok Time, which was an excellent episode. This is where it's called the Pon farr, where Vulcans are kind of like cats in that every now and again they go into heat and they can only think of one thing. So this was Spock thinking of that one thing. and for political reasons or nefarious reasons, the woman he was supposed to be kind of getting into heat with wanted to kind of hook up with someone else, and poor old Kirk got stuck into kind of defending her honor. So it was a very interesting episode, but this character and Spock both beam away, and Spock must not have activated this turn. So it's very interesting. It's very similar to the Gorn card, that you have Kirk, or the Commander, I should say, beam away. In this one, it's Spock and another character beam away. And finally, we have here at the end a logical explanation, and it's the end game. Score this card at the end of the game if you have 5 or more illusion missions in your scoring arena, and you get 20 victory points. So with Spock's logical explanation there at the end, there's nothing really left to say except to say a big thank you to Gale Force 9 for this early copy of the Captain Kirk Federation expansion for Star Trek Away missions. Stay tuned, because soon we'll be unboxing the Scotty Federation expansion, and again a big thank you to Gale Force 9 for that one as well. As always, if you enjoy these videos, please like, subscribe, all that good YouTube stuff. Until then, good luck, God bless, stay safe, and live long and prosper.